People say good deeds come back to you. But nobody ever talks about the consequences. When Ellie bought an old man a birthday cake, she didn't earn gratitude. She triggered a hunt. And someone dangerous noticed. The rain, the line, and the moment that changed everything. The storm came out of nowhere. One moment the sky was only gray. The next, it opened like a broken dam, spilling cold sheets of rain that made the whole world blur into streaks of silver. 17-year-old Ellie Gray tugged her hood tighter as she hurried into Greenway Market, a tiny grocery store that smelled faintly of old wood and warm bread. She'd only stopped for cereal and toothpaste, small errands after her tiring shift at the coffee shop. She never imagined this would be the night her life split into before and after. Inside, the store was nearly empty. Rain hammered the windows, drowning out the soft hum of the refrigerators. Ellie grabbed what she needed quickly and stepped into the checkout line behind an elderly man. That's when everything shifted. He stood hunched over, coat soaked through, water dripping from the ends of his sleeves. His grocery basket held only a few items. A small birthday cake, milk, a can of soup, a loaf of white bread. Nothing extravagant, nothing unnecessary, only enough to suggest he lived his life in quiet, lonely routine. His hands shook as he opened his wallet. The bills were damp, wrinkled, and heartbreakingly few. I thought I had a 20 in here, he murmured, voice thin and embarrassed. The cashier gave a strained smile but said nothing. Behind Ellie, someone sighed loudly. Another muttered, "Come on." Ellie felt a familiar sting in her chest, that particular ache reserved for someone else's humiliation. She knew that ache too well. Her younger brother's disability, her father's long hours, her mother's exhausted smile life had made her sensitive to invisible wounds. And this old man was hurting. Not in the way you can see, but in the way you feel. Before she could second-guess herself, she stepped forward. "It's okay," she said softly. "Let me cover it." The old man froze. He looked up at her, and for the first time she saw his eyes, a pale, wintry blue, filled with a strange mix of gratitude and something else, fear. You don't have to, dear," he whispered. "I know," she said, smiling gently. "But I want to." Her card went through with a soft beep, and just like that, the tension in the line evaporated. People relaxed. The world moved again. The old man placed a trembling hand briefly over hers, a gesture so fragile she almost leaned closer just to make sure he wouldn't fall. "Thank you," he said. Then, barely audible, "I'm sorry." She frowned. Sorry for what? But he didn't answer. He simply gathered his small bundle of groceries and shuffled out into the storm. In seconds, the rain swallowed him whole. Ellie watched the door close behind him. A strange chill ran through her, the kind that whispers this moment is not finished yet. She didn't know that outside, down the dark street behind fogged-up windshields, someone else had noticed the old man too. And they weren't grateful. They weren't sympathetic. They were watching, waiting. And the kindness she offered so effortlessly had just put her on their radar. The storm didn't ease. By the time Ellie stepped outside, the sky was a soaking curtain of gray, and the streetlights flickered like they were trying to stay alive. She pulled her hood up and hurried across the parking lot, her shoes slapping through puddles. But halfway to her car, she stopped. The old man wasn't gone. He stood across the street, under the broken awning of a closed barber shop. He wasn't taking shelter from the rain. He seemed to be listening to it, as if the storm itself were whispering warnings only he could hear. His posture had changed too. Inside the store, he was frail, almost breakable. Out here, something else emerged. Something as gray, more alert. A tension in his shoulders that didn't belong to someone ordinary. He looked over his shoulder, a quick, precise motion, then scanned the street with the instinct of a man who had spent years being hunted. Ellie felt a shiver crawl down her spine. No one searching for loose change looks like that. She raised a hand hesitantly to wave, but before she could, the old man did something that made her breath catch. He shook his head. Not in confusion. Not in dismissal. In warning. A deliberate, unmistakable warning. His eyes locked onto hers with a quiet desperation, and through the sheets of rain, Ellie could read his expression perfectly. Go home. Forget you saw me. Then he stepped back, and vanished into the alley between the buildings, swallowed by shadows so quickly it almost didn't make sense. Ellie stood frozen, the rain soaking through her hoodie, her heart pounding like a drum. Why would he warn her? Why would a stranger care? She forced herself to move again. She got into her car, turned the engine on, and tried to shrug off the unease settling into her bones. He was just an old man, she told herself. A lonely senior buying a cake for who knows what reason. Maybe she had imagined the fear in his eyes. But as she reversed out of her parking spot, something in the rearview mirror made her grip the steering wheel tighter. Across the street, parked in the dark behind the barber shop, 2 sets of headlights blinked on. Low, quiet, deliberate. Not bright like normal cars. Not warm like a neighbor's sedan. Cold. Controlled. Unmoving. She couldn't see the vehicle itself. Just the faint outline. And the unmistakable rumble of a heavy engine idling. The hairs on her arms rose. Were they watching the old man? Or her? The headlights stayed still as she drove away. But even blocks later, when she turned left onto Birchwood Avenue, her eyes kept flicking to the mirror. Nothing followed. And yet, the unsettled feeling didn't fade. Grew. Home was bright and warm compared to the storm outside. Her mother was clearing dishes. Her little brother Noah was watching cartoons on the couch, giggling at something silly. Her father was sorting mail at the dining table. Life felt so normal, so safe, that she almost laughed at herself. Almost. Rough day? Her mom asked, noticing her expression. Ellie hesitated. Then she told her about the old man, the groceries, the tremor in his voice, the way he apologized, the way he warned her without speaking. Her mom smiled gently. You did something kind, sweetheart. Let that be enough. Ellie tried. She really tried. But her brain wouldn't stop replaying that moment in the rain. His eyes, the warning, the shadows swallowing him whole. And the headlights. Always the headlights. By midnight, Ellie still wasn't asleep. She sat on her bed, staring at the rain running down her window like veins of silver, tapping slowly, steadily. She told herself she was overreacting. Then the street outside her house glowed with an unfamiliar light. Not lightning. Not passing cars. Slow, creeping brightness. Ellie stood up, heart thumping. She parted her curtains just an inch. And froze. Because coming down her quiet street, engines low and synchronized, were 3 large black SUVs. Moving slowly, purposefully, straight toward her house. The SUVs rolled down the street like silent giants. Dark, heavy, unstoppable. Their headlights cut through the rain in narrow beams, slicing across parked cars and shimmering puddles. Ellie's breath caught in her throat. They weren't speeding. They weren't lost. They were approaching with purpose. By the time they slowed to a stop in front of her house, the street was glowing with reflected light. Rain hammered on their roofs, but the engines remained steady, soft, almost patient. Her pulse thudded in her ears. "Dad!" she whispered. Her father, who had been dozing on the couch, jolted awake at the tension in her voice. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. She simply pointed toward the window. He stepped beside her, squinting through the rain-splattered glass. His expression tightened instantly. Protective. Alert. The way fathers get when something doesn't feel right. "Stay here," he said quietly. But Ellie followed him anyway, her heart pounding against her ribs as if trying to warn her from the inside. Her mother peeked around the hallway corner, frowning. Noah, half asleep, rubbed his eyes. "What's happening?" her mother whispered. Ellie didn't have an answer, only fear. An instinctive, cold fear she didn't recognize. Then the first SUV's driver door opened. A man stepped out, tall and broad-shouldered, rain bouncing off the black fabric of his suit. A second man exited from the SUV behind him. Both moved with a deliberate calm, like people used to walking into unpredictable situations. Their presence wasn't loud. It was worse than loud. It was official. "Who are they?" Ellie breathed. Her father clenched his jaw. "We're about to find out." He opened the front door just as the suited men reached the porch. Rain cascaded from the rooftop, soaking their shoulders as they stopped under the dim porch light. "Can I help you?" her father asked sharply. The taller man lifted a badge. Metal, slick with raindrops. "My name is Agent Carter," he said. His voice didn't waver. "We need to speak with Ellie Gray." Her stomach dropped through the floor. Her father stepped forward, blocking the doorway. "About what?" "It concerns an individual she interacted with earlier today," Agent Carter replied. "A man of significant national interest." Ellie's mouth went dry. The old man. Kate. The warning in his eyes. Her mother stepped beside her father now, gripping Ellie's arm with trembling fingers. "Why would the FBI want to talk to my daughter?" she demanded. "What is this about?" Carter didn't blink. "The man your daughter assisted is not who he appeared to be." The porch light flickered in the storm. Thunder rumbled far away, low and distant. Ellie felt the world slow down, like every heartbeat stretched a little further apart. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. Are you talking about the old man at the grocery store?" The agent nodded once. "Yes, and you need to come with us inside. Immediately. There are things you don't yet understand, and we have very limited time." Her father bristled defensively. "You're not taking my daughter anywhere." "We're not here to take her," Carter said firmly. "We're here to protect her." Lightning flashed bright sudden. And in that split second of white light, Ellie saw something behind the agents that made her blood turn to ice. Fourth man. Not with the agents. Standing across the street, half hidden behind a tree. Umbrella low. Face obscured. Watching their house. Watching her. Then the light faded, and the man was gone. "Please," Agent Carter said, lowering his voice. "We don't have much time. Let us explain." Inside, Ellie exchanged a terrified look with her mother. Her brother was awake now, gripping his blanket, eyes wide. The agents weren't threatening her. The night was. Something was closing in, and Ellie could feel it like cold fingers brushing the back of her neck. Her father hesitated. Just 1 second too long. Another SUV door opened. More agents stepped out. The rain felt heavier. The night darker. And Ellie realized something terrifying. Her small act of kindness hadn't just drawn attention. It had drawn danger. "Dad," she whispered, voice trembling. "Let them in." He looked at her fear, her certainty, and something in his expression broke. He stepped aside. Agent Carter nodded once, stepped over the threshold, and closed the door behind them, sealing the storm and the mystery outside. The moment the door closed behind Agent Carter, the house changed. The storm outside faded into a muted roar. The light seemed too bright. The air too still. Ellie felt as if she had stepped into a different version of her own home, one where danger hid in the corners and every breath carried weight. 3 agents stood in her living room now. Not dripping panic. Not raising weapons. Quiet. Controlled. Professional. That was worse. Her father positioned himself between the agents and his family, shoulders squared. Her mother guided Noah to the couch, whispering for him to stay put, though he clung to her arm, trembling. Agent Carter removed his coat, shook off the rain, and glanced around the room. "Let's begin," he said. "Begin what?" Ellie wanted to ask. But her voice wouldn't come. Carter sat down calmly at the edge of their coffee table, folding his hands. "The man you encountered today," he said, "has gone by many names. Some of them are classified. But the one we believe he used most recently is..." He paused. Not for dramatic effect, but like someone choosing his words with surgical precision. "Arthur Morgan." Ellie's heart stuttered. Her father frowned. "Never heard of him." "I'd be surprised if you had," Carter replied. "He's been off the grid for a long time. The second agent, shorter, serious, eyes sharp as glass, stepped closer. Off the grid as in retired? Ellie's mother asked. Or something else? Carter exhaled, rubbing a hand over his jaw. Mrs. Gray. Morgan wasn't a retiree. He was one of the most skilled intelligence operatives this country ever produced. He dismantled trafficking rings, broke espionage networks, prevented attacks that never made the news. Beep. And then, he continued, in 2009, after a disastrous operation that cost the lives of his entire team, he vanished. Ellie felt her blood run cold. Vanished as in hiding, she whispered. Hiding, Carter said softly, from the people who wanted him dead, and from the secrets he didn't trust anyone else to carry. The third agent pulled out a tablet, swiping to a blurred image. A much younger Morgan in a military uniform, stern and unyielding. Ellie felt dizzy. That man, Carter said, nodding toward the photo, is the same man you bought groceries for 13 hours ago. Her father ran a hand through his hair. Why would a man like that be buying a cake, he asked. And why would he leave a trail after hiding for 15 years? Carter looked at Ellie. That's the part we didn't understand, he admitted. Until you paid for his groceries. Ellie blinked. Me. I didn't do anything. You did, Carter replied gently. You made him visible. Ellie didn't understand. The agent continued. He paid in cash. Always cash. He avoided cameras, avoided people, never spent more than 5 minutes in any public place. The shorter agent added. But when he reached for his wallet today and realized he didn't have enough, he panicked. He faltered. And you stepped in. Carter lowered his voice. You looked at him. You spoke to him. You helped him. And in that moment, that very human, very genuine moment, he slipped. Slipped how? Ellie whispered. He made eye contact with the cameras. Security footage caught his face clearly for the first time in a decade. Ellie's fingers tightened on the edge of the couch. Her mother's eyes widened. Oh my God! Carter nodded. And after that, we knew he had resurfaced. We knew he was alive. Her father's voice sharpened. So you came here to what? Recruit my daughter. Use her. No, Carter said firmly. We came because Morgan left the store after she helped him, and disappeared again. The shorter agent stepped forward. But not before doing something he hasn't done in 15 years. A hush filled the room. What? Lee asked. The agent held up a small transparent evidence bag. Inside was something Ellie recognized instantly. The receipt from the grocery store. On the back, scribbled in fading ink. I'm sorry. And thank you. Ellie's breath caught. He left that, she whispered. For you, Carter said. And for us. It's the first communication we've had from him since 2009. The second agent added. And we believe he will reach out again. Ellie swallowed hard. Why me? Carter looked at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. A mix of sadness, respect, and something like urgency. Because Ellie, you reminded him what humanity looks like. You gave him something he hasn't had in years. A reason to be seen. A sudden noise outside made everyone freeze. Car door. A crunch of gravel. A shadow moving against the rain. Carter lifted a hand, and the agents reached discreetly for holstered weapons. Through the window a figure appeared. Tall, hooded, walking slowly up the driveway. Her father instinctively stepped back, shielding his family. Carter stood quickly. Everyone stay calm, he warned. The knock on the door was soft, deliberate, and everything in Ellie told her this wasn't an agent. This wasn't a neighbor. This wasn't a coincidence. It was the beginning of what she didn't know, but she felt it in her bones. The knock sounded again. Measured. Too calm for a night like this. Ellie felt her heartbeat pulse inside her ears. Her mother clutched Noah tighter. Her father stepped even closer to the door, jaw clenched so tight his teeth almost ground together. Agent Carter raised a hand to caution him. We answer it, he whispered. His tone was different now. No longer composed but alert. Well, ready. The second agent moved silently toward the hallway, positioning himself to cover angles. The third agent edged toward the back entrance. They were treating this as a threat. Real one. Carter reached for the doorknob and unlocked it with a soft click. The moment the door opened, cold rain swept into the house, misting the hardwood floor and chilling the air. A man stood on the porch, soaking wet. He wore a black jacket with the hood pulled low, droplets running from the brim. His posture was stiff, rigid, like someone who had walked through the storm with purpose. His hands were visible. Me. His voice, when he spoke, was low and hoarse. I need to speak to her. His chin lifted slightly toward Ellie. Her breath hitched. Who are you? Carter demanded. The man didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Doesn't matter. Carter's tone hardened. It does. Finally, the man lifted a trembling hand, pulling back his hood. Lee gasped. It wasn't the old man. It was someone younger, maybe mid-30s, but with the same pale blue eyes she had seen earlier that day. Eyes filled with fear and grief, and exhaustion layered over years of running. I'm not here to hurt anyone, he whispered. I'm here to warn her. The agents tensed simultaneously. Warn her about what? Carter pressed. The man swallowed, his throat bobbing. He's gone. Ellie stepped forward despite her mother's desperate reach to stop her. Who's gone? She asked. The man's voice cracked. Arthur. The name hit the room like a tremor. Carter's expression shifted. Not shocked, but something close. Morgan? Carter asked. The man nodded. Then his eyes drifted to Ellie, not with blame, but with something else entirely. Plea. When she paid for his groceries, he said. She wasn't the only one who noticed. Ellie felt a cold rush flood her veins. Those headlights, the shadows behind the barber shop, the warning look in the old man's eyes. The man continued, voice breaking. They were already watching the store. They were just waiting for him to slip. And when she stepped in, his gaze dropped to the floor. They realized he cared, that someone saw him, that he wasn't invisible anymore. Carter stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Is he alive? The man exhaled shakily. He was. An hour ago. Ellie's knees weakened. Her father steadied her. What happened? She whispered. The man wiped rain from his face, but the drops kept coming, mixing with tears. You need to understand something, he said. Arthur Morgan didn't disappear because he was afraid. Lightning flashed through the windows, illuminating the man's hollow expression. He disappeared to protect the people he loved. Something twisted painfully in Ellie's chest. Loved her. Why would he? The man continued, the storm crashing louder outside. He knew he couldn't outrun his past forever. So he left something behind, something no one else could be trusted with. Carter stiffened. What did he leave? The man reached into his jacket. The agents instantly drew their weapons. He froze, palms open. It's okay, he whispered. Just listen. Slowly, he pulled out a small rain-soaked envelope, the edges frayed, the ink smudged. He extended it toward Ellie. Arthur told me to give this to the girl who bought him cake, he said. His exact words. Ellie's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled as she reached for the envelope. Carter stepped forward cautiously. Let her take it, the man said quietly. She's the only one he trusted. The envelope felt heavier than paper should, weighted by something deeper, deeper than fear, deeper than secrets. It felt like the beginning of something she wasn't ready for. The man stepped back, rain drenching his hair, his clothes, his trembling hands. He said this will explain everything, he whispered. Then he turned away, stepping off the porch into the storm like a dissolving shadow. Wait, Lee cried. But by the time she reached the doorway, he had vanished into the night, swallowed up just like Arthur had been. Ellie clutched the envelope to her chest, her pulse thundering. Her father looked at her with fear, her mother with dread, Noah with wide-eyed confusion, the agents with a level of urgency that made her stomach twist. "What's in the envelope, Ellie?" Carter asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't know." But deep inside, she felt the truth building like a storm. Whatever Arthur Morgan had left behind, it wasn't small, it wasn't simple, and it wasn't safe. Slowly, with every eye in the room watching, she slid her finger under the seal and opened it. The room was silent, not the soft, peaceful kind of silence, but the heavy, breath-tightening kind that feels like the air itself is waiting. Ellie held the damp envelope in both hands. It was light, almost weightless, yet somehow heavier than anything she'd ever touched. Her fingers trembled as she slid out the contents. Inside were only two things: a folded piece of paper and a small metal key. Just a key. Ordinary. Silver. Cold. But the moment it touched her palm, a strange shiver ran across her skin. Agent Carter stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Ellie, what is that key for?" I don't know," she whispered. The paper was wrinkled, the ink smudged by rain or tears, but his handwriting was unmistakably old, shaky, and deliberate. She unfolded it carefully. The note was brief, uncomfortably brief. "If they're reading this, it's too late for me." But not for her. She deserves to know the truth. Locker 317. Midnight. Alone. A.M. Ellie's stomach twisted. Her father shook his head immediately. "No, absolutely not. She's not going anywhere alone." Her mother grabbed her hand. "This is insane. A locker. Where? Why her?" Carter took the note gently, scanning it, jaw tightening. "This handwriting is his," he confirmed. Locker 317. It's vague, but Morgan never left random clues. There's meaning behind every detail. The second agent stepped forward. Could be a train station, bus depot, gym, an airport, a storage facility. The third agent added, it could also be a trap. Ellie stared at the metal key again. It wasn't shaped like a house key, not like a safe deposit box key either. It was simpler, older. Something you'd use on battered steel locker doors, the kind found in forgotten places. She swallowed hard. "He wants me to go." "No," her father said firmly. "He wants you to get hurt. You're staying put." Ellie looked up, not at her father but at Agent Carter. "You said earlier, I'm the only one he trusted." Carter held her gaze, silent. "Why?" she asked. "Why would he trust me?" Her voice cracked on the last word. Carter finally spoke. "Morgan spent his entire life surrounded by liars, criminal masterminds, corrupt officials, traitors. He never trusted anyone easily." He stepped closer. "But you, a teenage girl he'd never met, paid for his groceries without asking anything of him. In his world, kindness like that doesn't exist. It's rare. It means something." Ellie looked back down at the letter. She deserves to know the truth. The phrase echoed in her mind. Her mother's voice broke through the tension. Why her? What truth? No one answered. Because none of them knew. Carter touched the key gently, examining it. "This looks like it belongs to an old bus station locker," he murmured. "Not many of those left. Most were removed years ago." The shorter agent chimed in. "There's one at the old Riverton bus terminal. Been shut down for about a decade." Carter nodded slowly. That would fit Morgan's style. Hidden in plain sight. Ellie felt the pull inside her. Not curiosity, but something deeper. A sense of responsibility she didn't ask for but couldn't ignore. "Midnight," she whispered. "That's 27 minutes from now." Her father's eyes widened. "Absolutely not. Not a chance." But Carter was already thinking, calculating, because he knew something Ellie's parents didn't. When Arthur Morgan left clues, they expired quickly, and danger came fast. "We can take her," the second agent said. "Set up surveillance. Cover every exit. No, Ellie interrupted softly. Everyone turned toward her. She squeezed the key, knuckles white. I have to go alone. The note says alone. Her parents immediately exploded. No, you don't. You're not going anywhere. This is insane. But another voice cut through the chaos. Agent Carter. She's right. The room fell silent. Even Ellie wasn't expecting that. Carter continued, resolute. If she shows up with us, whoever's watching will know. Morgan's enemies will kill him or kill her or both. He wouldn't have written alone, unless the situation was beyond critical. Ellie's mother shook her head violently. No. She's just a girl. She's the only person Morgan trusted, Carter said. And the only one they won't expect. The words slammed into Ellie like a weight. The only one they won't expect. The only one. Her heart pounded. She had never felt so terrified. Never felt so small. But she had never felt so needed. Carter placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. You won't be alone, he said quietly. We'll be nearby, watching every exit, every corner. You'll go in. You'll open the locker. And you'll walk out safe. We'll handle the rest. Her parents stared at her with wet eyes. Her father's voice broke. You don't have to do this, Ellie. Ellie looked at him, then at Noah, who was clutching his blanket, whispering her name in a quivering voice. Her family was scared. The agents were tense. The rain outside was growing heavier, louder, like the storm itself was urging her to hurry. Ellie closed her hand around the key. This wasn't just about her anymore. Arthur Morgan had lived his entire life in shadows. And trusted her with his last message. She took a breath. I'm going. The house fell silent again. This time not from fear, but from the undeniable truth. There was no turning back now. The old Riverton bus terminal looked like a skeleton in the rain. Once, years ago, buses had lined this place. Families rushing to catch rides, college kids lugging suitcases, travelers waiting beneath flickering monitors. But now it was abandoned. The roof sagged. The ticket booth was boarded up. The fluorescent lights inside glowed in twitching, sickly flickers. Perfect, Ellie realized. Exactly the kind of place someone like Arthur Morgan would choose. The clock on her phone read 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes. She stood under the broken awning, rain dripping from her hood, clutching the metal key in her fist so hard it dug into her skin. Behind her, in the distance, parked discreetly at various points around the block, the SUVs were waiting. Dark silhouettes. Engine hums barely audible. The agents were there, but invisible. Carter's voice whispered from the small earpiece they'd fitted her with. We have eyes on you. You are not alone. But she still felt alone. Utterly, terrifyingly alone. Her breath fogged the air as she stepped through the terminal doors. They creaked open, loud in the silence. The broken tiles on the floor reflected the flickering lights in strange, unsettling patterns. The air smelled of dust, rust, and something Ellie couldn't place. Something metallic like old secrets left to rot. Rows of lockers lined the far wall. Most were rusted shut. Some hung open like broken jaws. She walked slowly, footsteps echoing. Her heart pounding so loud she could hear it over the rain. Locker 317. Locker 317. Locker 317. Her voice quivered as she whispered the number to herself, like a mantra to keep her steady. The earpiece crackled softly. Carter, keep moving. You're doing fine. Another voice, the shorter agent. Thermal is clear. No one inside but her. But Ellie wasn't convinced. Places like this didn't feel empty. They felt watched. She reached the third row of lockers, the numbers climbing in sequence. 313, 314, 315, 316. There it was. 317. Her hand shook as she reached for the lock. The key slid in smoothly. Too smoothly. As if it had been waiting. She hesitated. Her breath caught. Then she turned the key. Blick. Inside, instead of belongings or clothes or a duffel bag, there was only a single metal box about the size of a hardback book. Cold, heavy, bolted shut. Something rattled inside as she lifted it. Then she noticed something else, tucked behind it, almost hidden in the shadows of the locker. Another folded note. Her pulse quickened. She took it with trembling fingers. The handwriting was unmistakably Arthur's. "If you're reading this, you're already in danger." Ellie's blood turned to ice. Carter's voice came urgently through the earpiece. "What does it say?" "Ellie." She opened her mouth to read aloud, but froze, because the room suddenly changed. It was something she felt before she heard it. A shift in the air. Wrongness. Presence. The faintest crunch. Footstep on glass. Not hers. The lights flickered violently overhead, and the earpiece erupted with static. "Carter." "Ellie, stop. Someone else is in the building. Stay where you..." The transmission cut out. Ellie's heart slammed against her ribs. She spun toward the terminal entrance. But the silhouette she saw wasn't an agent. It was a man. Dressed in black from neck to boots. Face hidden. Watching her. Not moving. Just watching. Her breath caught in her throat. She stepped back instinctively, clutching the metal box and note against her chest. The man stepped forward. Deliberate. Silent. Predatory. Her voice cracked on a whisper. Who are you?" He didn't answer. He only tilted his head slightly, the way a hunter studies prey right before striking. Ellie's entire body froze. She tried to speak, tried to run, but fear held her still. The man lifted a hand slowly, gloved, steady, controlled, and Ellie realized with horrifying clarity, he wasn't here for the box. He wasn't here for Arthur Morgan. He was here for her. For a moment, Ellie couldn't move. The man in black took another step forward, slow, precise, like a predator savoring the moment before the strike. Rainwater dripped from his coat onto the cracked tile floor, each drop echoing in the dead silence of the terminal. Her heart pounded so violently she thought it would burst. "Ellie!" A sudden whisper fizzled through her earpiece. Broken. Static-filled. Carter's voice fighting through interference. "Ellie, don't panic. Move to the east exit now." The man's head twitched just slightly. He'd heard it. And that was enough. Her paralysis shattered. She turned and ran. The terminal exploded with sound, her footsteps slapping against tile, her breath ragged, the metal box clanging in her grip. Behind her. A step. Fast. Heavy. Relentless. The man wasn't running. He was closing in. She dodged a row of seats, nearly slipping on the wet floor. The flickering lights warped shadows into monstrous shapes. The old ticket booth flashed by as she sprinted past it. "Ellie, east exit, 10 meters. Carter's voice sputtered in and out. She spotted the door, a rusted emergency exit hanging crooked on its hinges. Almost there. Almost. A hand clamped around her wrist. In one violent yank, she was spun around, slammed against the row of lockers so hard the metal rattled behind her. The breath blasted out of her lungs. The man loomed inches away. She could feel his breath, see the raindrops on his mask, smell the cold, metallic scent of danger on him. He said nothing. He didn't need to. His grip tightened on her wrist, painfully, and his other hand reached for the metal box under her arm. "No!" She tightened her grip desperately, refusing to let go. The man leaned in, pressing all his weight forward. She was losing. His fingers brushed the edge of the box. Crack. A deafening sound filled the terminal. The man jerked violently. Not because of her. A bullet had struck the floor inches from his feet. "Step away from the girl." A voice thundered through the building. Lee gasped. A figure stood at the far end of the terminal, soaking wet, limping slightly, but unmistakably alive. Arthur Morgan. Not dead. Not gone. Here. The old man from the grocery store, but not fragile anymore. His posture was straight. his eyes fierce, a gun steady in his weathered hands. The man in black released Ellie instantly, turning toward Arthur with a soundless, predatory snarl. Ellie stumbled away, gripping the metal box, chest heaving. Arthur didn't take his eyes off the attacker. "Run, Ellie," he barked. His voice, gravelly commanding, hit her like a jolt. She hesitated only a second. That was all he needed. He fired. The gunshot ripped through the terminal, echoing like thunder. The man in black dove behind a row of lockers, the bullet grazing his shoulder and sparking against metal. "Go!" Arthur shouted. Finally Ellie moved. She sprinted toward the east exit, shoving the emergency door open with all her strength. Cold rain slapped her face as she stumbled outside into the night. Several black figures emerged from the shadows, sprinting toward her. "Not enemies, agents." Carter's voice rang out from the darkness. "Ellie! This way!" She ran toward him, heart exploding with adrenaline and terror. Behind her, the terminal erupted in chaos. More gunshots. Heavy footsteps. Arthur Morgan had walked into the open for her. The agents closed around Ellie in a tight protective circle, guiding her across the abandoned bus platform toward cover. She clutched the metal box against her chest, shaking violently. "What happened in there?" Carter demanded, grabbing her shoulders. Ellie gasped for breath. He was waiting for me, and Arthur, he's inside. He's alive, he saved me." Carter's jaw tightened. "Get her to the vehicle. Now." The shorter agent raced ahead to open the SUV door. Ellie was ushered inside as rain hammered the roof like a war drum. Through the windshield, she could see shadows moving in the terminal, flashes of light, silhouettes grappling. A figure stumbled out. Not Arthur. The man in black. He sprinted toward the tree line beyond the parking lot, vanishing into the storm like a ghost. And Arthur. He didn't follow. He didn't appear. Carter cursed under his breath, slamming the SUV door shut. "Go, go, go!" The vehicles roared to life. As they sped away, Ellie pressed her forehead against the cold window, scanning the terminal in desperation. One question hammered in her mind. Was Arthur still alive? And what was inside the box he wanted her to have? Whatever it was, men were willing to kill for it. And she was now holding it in her hands. The SUV tore through the rain-soaked streets, wipers struggling against the storm. Inside, the air was thick with tension, agents murmuring into radios, Noah clutching his blanket in fear, Ellie trembling so hard she could feel her teeth chatter. But all she saw, all she felt, was the weight of the metal box on her lap. Cold, heavy, unexplainably ominous. Agent Carter slid into the seat beside her as the SUV sped toward a safer location. "Ellie," he said softly, "look at me." He didn't. Her eyes were locked on the box. "It wasn't just a random locker," she whispered. "He knew they were after him. He knew I'd be in danger. And he still left this for me." Carter exchanged a glance with the agent driving. "Can you open it?" he asked. "I don't know," Ellie murmured. "There's no latch. No hinge. It's sealed." Carter leaned in, tapping the metal lightly. "Not sealed. Was. Encrypted." Ellie blinked. "Encrypted? How can a metal box be encrypted?" "Morgan wasn't a normal operative," Carter said. "He had access to tools, technology. Secrets that most agents never even get near." Ellie's father twisted in his seat. "What does that mean for my daughter?" Carter took a slow breath. "It means whatever is inside this box is worth killing for." Her mother gasped softly. Noah buried his face in her shoulder. Ellie swallowed hard. "Then why give it to me?" she asked. "Why not you? Why not the agency?" Carter hesitated. "She's right," the shorter agent said. "Why her?" The third agent exhaled sharply. "Because no one would expect her to have it." Carter nodded. "And because Morgan never trusted us. Not fully." Ellie's hands trembled. "So he trusted me?" "Yes," Carter said. Enough to risk his life tonight. The SUV turned sharply into an underground parking structure, the agent's temporary safe site. The vehicles parked, engines shutting off one by one, the sudden quiet almost deafening. The rain pounding on the concrete ceiling above only amplified everything Ellie felt. Her father stepped out, pacing angrily. This is insane. She's just a kid. She needs to go home, to school, to a normal life. Carter cut him off. Sir, listen to me carefully. Your daughter is already tied to this. There is no undoing it. Ellie's mother turned, eyes wet with fear. What if we destroy the box? She asked. Throw it away. They'll stop coming, right? Carter's expression darkened. No, he said firmly. Destroying it would be worse. Every major intelligence cell on the eastern seaboard would assume she read it. They'd come harder. Faster. Ellie closed her eyes. The storm outside couldn't match the one building inside her. Her father raked his hands through his hair, his voice breaking. What is inside that damn box? For the first time all night, Carter looked genuinely uneasy. We don't know. He sat beside Ellie, his tone dropping into something quiet, almost reverent. But if Morgan risked exposure, if he resurfaced after 15 years, if he left clues only she could follow, if he ran into a gunfight instead of away from it, beep, then what's inside this box could change the entire country. Ellie stared down at it. Her reflection warped on the steel surface. A girl who, hours ago, was nothing more than a high school senior with a shift at a coffee shop. Now she was holding something powerful enough to spark a war. She whispered, "What if I don't want it?" Carter didn't answer. Because they all knew. She had no choice anymore. But the box wasn't finished revealing its secrets. As Ellie tilted it slightly, something inside shifted. A soft metallic clink. She froze. Carter leaned forward sharply. What was that? I don't know, Ellie whispered. She ran her fingers along the edges, searching for seams, openings, anything. And then she felt it. Tiny ridge. Almost invisible. Her breath caught. Wait, she murmured. There's something. She pressed her thumb against the ridge. And the box emitted a soft mechanical click. The agents shot to their feet. Ellie, stop! Carter barked. But the box was already vibrating. Quietly, steadily, as if waking up after years of sleep. A faint blue line glowed around the edges, pulsing like a heartbeat. No one breathed. No one moved. Ellie felt her stomach drop. It's scanning, Carter whispered. Scanning what? Her father demanded. Carter's voice was barely audible. Her. Ellie stared in horror as the light intensified. Arthur Morgan hadn't chosen her by accident. He had chosen her because the box recognized her. A hiss echoed through the garage as the seal broke. And slowly, impossibly, the box opened. The metal box opened with a soft, chilling hiss. A faint cloud of cold vapor escaped, swirling into the air like ghostly fog. Everyone instinctively stepped back, even the agents, as though the truth inside it might be radioactive. Ellie stared, frozen. Inside the box was not money, not weapons, not intel files, but a stack of old photographs, and a small black military-grade flash drive, wrapped in waterproof plastic. Photographs, real ones, worn edges, faded colors, the kind of photos people carried before everything became digital. Carter exhaled slowly. Ellie, pick one up. She hesitated. Her hands trembled. Then she reached in and lifted the first photograph. Her breath caught. It showed a little girl, no older than 2, sitting on a blanket in the grass, laughing, reaching for bubbles floating in the air. Behind her stood a tall man in uniform, a man with pale blue eyes. Not the frightened ones she had seen in the grocery store. Not the tired, hunted ones from the alley. Younger, hopeful, alive. Arthur Morgan, holding a child. Ellie stared at the girl in the photo, confused. Who is this? Carter took the photo carefully. She's beautiful, he murmured. But we don't have any record of Morgan having children. The second agent frowned deeper. No team reports. No family mentions. Nothing. Ellie put the photo down, her fingers shaking harder now. She reached for the second. A woman, smiling at the camera, holding the same baby girl from the first picture. The woman had warm features, soft eyes, and hair the same color as Ellie's. Ellie felt her breath tremble. Her voice cracked. She looks like my mom. She glanced toward her mother, whose face had gone pale. So pale she looked close to fainting. That's not, her mother whispered. That can't be. Ellie picked up the third photograph. Hospital room. The same woman holding a newborn. Arthur Morgan standing beside her. His hand on her shoulder. On his wrist. Bracelet. A thin blue hospital band. The name printed on it. Gray, Ellie. The floor dropped out from under her. What? She choked out. No, that's not. Her mother suddenly sobbed, covering her mouth with both hands. Ellie felt her heart slam against her chest. Her father froze, his face twisted in disbelief. Carter whispered, "Oh my God." Ellie's voice shook as she held up the photo. "This is me." Her mother squeezed her eyes shut, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Ellie," she whispered hoarsely, "listen to me." "No," Ellie said, voice rising. "Tell me the truth." Her mother sobbed harder. Her father looked broken, confused, ashamed. "You said he was a stranger," Ellie whispered, voice splintering. "You said you never knew him. You said." Her father whispered, "We didn't know how to tell you." The words struck Ellie like physical blows. She stepped back, photos trembling in her hands. "No," she whispered. "You're wrong. You're lying. Why would Arthur Morgan have pictures of me as a baby?" Carter looked between Ellie's parents, expression darkening. "Start talking," he said quietly. Her mother broke. Fully, completely. "We didn't know his real name," she cried. "We didn't know he was a spy. We didn't know what he did. We only knew." Her father finished in a broken whisper. "Ellie, your biological father wanted you safe." Time stopped. Everything froze. Vein. Breath. Tone. Ellie stared at them, unable to speak. "My what?" Her father stepped closer, voice trembling. "When you were born, your real father, Arthur, he came to us. He was desperate. He said people were after him. He said they would hurt anyone close to him. He begged us to take you and raise you as our own. To keep you safe." Her mother nodded, sobbing. "He said he'd send money when he could. That he'd never come near you. That he'd watch from far away." Ellie's knees buckled. She dropped the photos. Her father caught her before she hit the floor, but she pushed him away. "Don't touch me," she cried, backing up until her shoulders hit the SUV. Carter pinched the bridge of his nose, processing everything. "Ellie," he said gently, "Arthur Morgan didn't choose you by accident." She shook her head violently, tears spilling down her face. "No, no, 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 this can't be real." But she wasn't done. The box had one last photo. She didn't want to look. She couldn't look. But her shaking hand lifted it anyway. It showed Arthur again, older now, tired and haunted, standing in the shadows of a school playground fence. Watching. And beyond the fence, a little girl on a swing. He had watched over her for years. Silently. From a distance. Until the day she accidentally crossed paths with him. The day she bought him a birthday cake. His birthday cake. Her father whispered brokenly. "He never stopped protecting you, Ellie." But Ellie couldn't hear anything anymore. She could only hear the storm inside her head. The truth hit her like a tidal wave. The man she helped. The man she trusted. The man she nearly died for tonight. Was her father. Her real father. And now he was gone. Maybe dead. Maybe kidnapped. Maybe worse. Ellie clutched the photos to her chest, sobbing as the weight of her entire life crashed down around her. She whispered through tears. "Dad. Where are you? For a long moment no one spoke. Ellie stood in the dim underground garage, soaked in tears and rainwater, fists clenched around the photos that had just crushed everything she believed about her own life. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't understand how the world could change in a single night. Her mother sobbed into her hands. Her father stood rigid, his own grief and guilt twisting his face. Noah watched with wide, terrified eyes, sensing that everything had broken but unable to understand how. And the agents, they watched her differently now. Not as a witness, not as a civilian, but as the daughter of Arthur Morgan, the only living person he trusted. Carter stepped forward slowly, lowering himself to Ellie's level. "Ellie," he said quietly, "I need you to listen." She didn't look up. "Ellie." His tone shifted, stern but compassionate. "You are not responsible for the danger he was running from," Carter said. "And you are not responsible for the decisions your parents made to protect you." She pressed her forehead against the metal box, tears dripping onto the cold steel. "But it feels like I am," she whispered. Carter exhaled. "I know." He waited a beat. "And I also know your father didn't want this life for you. He wanted you safe, happy, normal, untouched by the darkness he lived in." Ellie lifted her head. Her voice was raw. "Then why leave the box for me? Why drag me into this now?" Carter held her gaze. "Because running was no longer enough. And because the truth inside that box wasn't for the agency. It was for you." The second agent, a man who had barely spoken all night, stepped forward, holding out his hand. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the flash drive. Ellie hesitated, then nodded. He opened a secure laptop, plugged the drive in, and waited as encrypted files flashed across the screen. Lines of code, government seals, redacted stamps, dozens of file names. But one folder caught everyone's eye. Project Harbolite. Callaway Tea. Classified above top level. Carter's face went pale. "No," he whispered. "That project was terminated." The second agent swallowed hard. "Apparently not." He clicked the folder. Inside were documents. Photos of foreign operatives. Logs of illegal weapons trades. Proof of politicians funneling money into covert networks. Evidence of traders inside government agencies. Names Ellie didn't recognize, but the agents clearly did. Carter's jaw tightened. This is catastrophic." The third agent shook his head. "This could topple half a dozen criminal syndicates and expose 3 intelligence agencies." Ellie stared at the screen. "What does this have to do with me?" Carter turned to her. "Because these files would have died in a vault if he gave them to us. The agency, the government, they're fractured. Corrupted in places no one wants to admit." He motioned to the photos of her as a child. "But giving them to you, that meant he didn't trust anyone except his own blood." Her heart twisted painfully. "My own father didn't trust the government," she whispered. "Your father didn't trust anyone," Carter said. "Not after what happened to his team. Not after what those files reveal." The second agent's voice cracked with awe. "Morgan stayed alive all those years to gather this." Ellie reached for the metal box again, her fingers brushing the photos inside. "How long?" Her voice was barely audible. "How long has he been watching me?" Her mother answered through tears. "Your whole life." Ellie's chest tightened. A strange mixture of grief and warmth and anger and longing rose all at once. "I need to find him." Her father stepped forward immediately. "No, Lino. You're not going after him." She cut him off. "I'm not asking permission." Carter didn't look shocked. He expected this. "Then we need to move now," he said. "Because whoever attacked you at the terminal, they won't stop. They'll regroup. They'll return." The second agent was already pulling up a map. "They wanted the box," he said. "But now they know she opened it. That means they'll try to take her," Carter finished grimly. "Alive." Ellie's stomach twisted. Why alive? Carter looked her dead in the eyes. Because they know something we didn't. He pointed at the photo of Arthur standing behind the school fence, the way he watched her with devotion and desperation. They know Morgan cared about you. They know he planned for you. And that makes you leverage. Ellie swallowed shakily. You mean bait? Carter nodded. Exactly. Her parents' voices rose in panic, pleading for reason, for safety, for someone to make this nightmare stop. But Ellie didn't hear them. She stared at the photos, the files, the flash drive, at the life she never knew was hers. And she felt something shift inside her, something stronger than fear, louder than grief. Purpose, resolve, a fire she didn't know she had. She lifted her chin. Then let's use me as bait. Her mother screamed her name. Her father grabbed her shoulders in shock. Noah sobbed into his blanket. But Ellie didn't look away from Carter. Take me to him, she said. Wherever he is. Whatever danger we're walking into. I don't care. Carter studied her for a long, heavy moment. You're your father's daughter, he whispered. Ellie tightened her grip on the box. No, she said. I'm finding my father. Outside, thunder cracked the sky open. The storm was not letting up. Neither was she. They reached the abandoned waterfront warehouse just before dawn. The rain had eased into a cold mist, curling around the rusted shipping containers and cracked concrete like ghosts reluctant to leave. This was the place the files pointed to. The last location Arthur Morgan had accessed. The place the enemy wanted before anyone else. And the place Ellie felt certain her father would be. Agent Carter stepped out of the SUV first, scanning the area with narrowed eyes. The other agents fanned out, weapons drawn, silent and deadly in the icy morning light. Ellie stepped out last. The metal box was strapped safely inside a reinforced backpack on her shoulders, but she could still feel its cold weight pressing against her spine. Her heart hammered. Her hands clenched. She was terrified, but she was done running from the truth. She was her father's daughter. Stay close, Carter whispered as they moved toward the warehouse. We don't know what or who is inside. Ellie nodded and gripped the straps of her backpack. The warehouse loomed ahead, a giant shadowed ribcage creaking in the wind. Its broken windows reflected the weak dawn light in fractured shards. Carter signaled for quiet. Then he pushed the door open. It groaned loudly, the sound echoing through the hollow space beyond. Inside, the building was dark, silent, ill. Metal beams stretched across the ceiling like rusted bones. A faint drip of water echoed through the cavernous room. And then, Ellie froze. Because there, on the far side of the warehouse, lying slumped against a wall, was Arthur Morgan, her father. His coat was torn. His leg was bleeding. His face was pale, eyes half open, breath shallow. He was alive. Barely. Ellie gasped, sprinting toward him before anyone could stop her. Dad! Her voice cracked and echoed off the walls. Arthur's head lifted at the sound, slow, heavy, like he was dragging himself out of a dream made of pain. When he saw her, his eyes softened, exactly the way they had in the grocery store. Ellie! He whispered, voice as fragile as cracked glass. She dropped to her knees beside him, tears blurring her vision. You're hurt. Why didn't you stay hidden? Why didn't you run? He shook his head weakly. I couldn't let them take you. Her breath broke. You came out of hiding for me? He smiled painfully. I stayed alive because of you. Carter and the agent surrounded them, weapons drawn, securing the perimeter. Morgan, Carter said, urgency in his voice. We have your files. We have the box. But we need the last piece. Whoever is after you won't stop until... Morgan cut him off with a rasp of breath. Too late. Ellie's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Low. Measured. Mocking. The man in black stepped out from behind a row of crates, unmasked now. His face was cold, sharp, expressionless. But his voice was lethal. You led me right to him, Ellie. Her blood turned to ice. Arthur tried to stand, failed, and pulled Ellie protectively under his arm. "Don't touch her," he growled, voice breaking. The man in black tilted his head. "Oh, I won't kill her. Not yet. You made her too valuable. She's the only leverage that makes you surrender." Carter raised his weapon. The other agents did too. But the man in black didn't flinch. "You shoot me," he said calmly, "and this warehouse goes up in flames." He held up a small detonator. Lee gasped. Carter cursed. Arthur closed his eyes, guilt tearing across his face. "This is my fault," he whispered. Ellie grabbed his hand. "No, this started with me. Helped you. Saw you. Her voice cracked. "I want to finish this with you." Arthur looked at her then, not as a stranger, not as a ghost, not as a problem he left behind, but as his daughter. The man in black stepped closer. "Give me the box, Ellie, or your father dies right now." Ellie's heart pounded so violently she could barely hear anything else. But she felt something inside her shift, something she didn't know she had until this moment. Courage, quiet, sharp, steady. She stood up, facing the man in black, facing death. "No," she said softly. He blinked, surprised. "No," he repeated. Ellie unzipped the backpack and lifted the box slowly. But she didn't hand it to him. She held it over the edge of a rusted metal platform beside her, where a single drop would send it crashing down 3 stories into icy river water. "If you kill my father," she said, voice trembling but unbroken, "the box goes in." The man's eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't. Try me." For the first time he hesitated. Carter seized the moment. Agents now. The warehouse erupted. Agents stormed from the shadows. Gunfire echoed. Sparks flew as bullets hit steel beams. The man in black lunged for Ellie. Arthur, with the last of his strength, threw himself in front of her. The impact knocked all 3 of them off balance. The detonator clattered across the floor. Carter dove for it. The man in black reached first. "Ellie!" Arthur rasped, voice shattering. She reacted instinctively. She slammed the box upward, straight into the man's jaw. He staggered back. Just enough. Carter fired. The man collapsed onto the concrete, the detonator skidding out of his hand. Silence. Crumbling. Shaking. Exhausted. Silence. Ellie turned to her father. He was slumped against the wall again, breathing ragged and uneven. "Dad," she whispered, falling to her knees beside him. "Please, please stay with me." He touched her cheek weakly. "I'm here," he breathed. "And you're braver than anyone I've ever known." Tears streamed down Ellie's face. "I thought I lost you." He gave a faint, aching smile. "You found me." Carter knelt beside them. "We have medics incoming. Hold on, Morgan." Arthur shook his head. "Just let me talk to her." The agent stepped back. Ellie squeezed her father's hand, a hand she had only just learned belonged to her. "I wanted to keep you safe," he whispered. "I stayed away because I thought I was poison. I thought if I touched your life, it would fall apart." Ellie sobbed. "But I would have chosen you," she whispered. "Always." Arthur closed his eyes, tears slipping down his weathered face. "And I chose you," he said. "Every day. Even from a distance." The first faint rays of dawn broke through the warehouse windows. Gentle. Forgiving. Ellie leaned her forehead against her father's. "I'm not letting you disappear again," she whispered fiercely. Arthur smiled, a real fragile smile. "Then I'm not going anywhere." Carter approached, voice softer than ever before. "Ellie, your father isn't just a target anymore." He glanced at Arthur. "He's a key witness. And thanks to you, we have everything we need." Ellie exhaled shakily. "I didn't do anything extraordinary." Arthur squeezed her hand. "You did the most extraordinary thing," he whispered. "You were kind." Ellie closed her eyes. And for the first time in hours, and days, In years she never knew she missed. Her father held her. The storm had finally ended. Her life, however, was just beginning.